Welcome in, everybody, to Sharpening the Edge Week 1 on the eve of Michigan getting ready to kick off the season. Lucas Reimink, Dennis Fithian here, back for season number 2. Lucas, it is great to see you. How are you?
It is. Doing really well. Excited for another year of college football. Should be a good one. A lot of stuff to talk about, so it'll be fun.
Yeah, we got lots of picks coming your way. We will be here on Fridays for you, and, we make 9 picks each week. Now, next week with the Lions playing on Thursday, we're picking their game, so we won't obviously have a pick for the Lions. So mostly, I could put a little asterisk up there and saying, when the teams have buys or whatever else, but most weeks we will pick Michigan State, the Detroit Lions. We will both have 3 best bets, a prop, a parlay, and a lock of the week. Now, you can say that's a lot, and, you might be right about that. It is a lock. I wouldn't say bet everyone. I wouldn't bet every Michigan game, every Michigan State game, and every Detroit Lions game, but we do that to give you an idea of what we're thinking about when it comes down to it. Right, Lucas?
Absolutely.
Yeah, and so with that, we will start with Michigan State, and the Detroit Lions. The Michigan line is 36, and we'll go over to you, Lucas, with the selection. Michigan and East Carolina. How do you see this game?
Yeah, so I actually think this spread is pretty much dead on. I'm just going to take the Pirates here just because anything over 35 is just really hard to cover. It's just a ton of points. It kind of just comes down to how much does press the gas, like once they get up big. Typically, they still like to run the ball in the second half. Even if they're going to pass a little bit more than this year than they have the last couple of years, those passes are still probably going to get completed against East Carolina defense that I don't think is very good. So that'll keep the clock running. Like I said, 36 is just a lot. Different play color here too. I don't really know how that's going to change the dynamics of anything. It's going to be different than it was last year for sure. It sounds like Kurt Campbell is going to be calling the plays in this one. Personally, would like to see him open it up, throw the ball a little bit more, just kind of see what they have, get that going. Clicking it a little bit earlier this year, I think would be better for the team. But my projections have this closer to about 30 points. So I'm just going to take the Pirates to cover here, and 30. It's just too big of a spread for me.
I think when you look at, games like this, when you see a top 5 team, which Michigan is number 2, and then you see them playing where you're giving up 30 plus points, some of them close to 40, it might be a good idea early in the season, even across the board, because the way that clock is running now on third downs. I know watching last week, Notre Dame and Navy, I sat down for the first quarter and it was over in like 3 minutes. They were just running the ball. It's like, wow, you could tell that it was going faster. Just, you have a running team, and Michigan is that. And then, the clock continued to run on a first down. So you had that factor as well. It could shorten things up. Though Vegas will make an adjustment. I don't know if they made that adjustment already, but it's not a bad idea. Something to think about. And with that, I'm going against you. And I picked the score that popped into my mind was 52-9 Michigan. Last year they won 51-7. I know that East Carolina is a little bit better. They've got pretty good wide receivers. They got a new quarterback, a running back that's been there, but a pretty good offense that should be able to score here. Michigan's missing some players in the secondary, but I like Michigan here. Like, not that they need to prove a point, but their eyes are on the championship this year, and I think they do want to put a big leg down, and they do want to show that, hey, like Michigan, they deserve to be a number 2 team, and they got a lot of different, whether it's a competition at tackle, at center. They've got a number of running backs, and I do think that they're going to be able to put up their, even if they are running the ball, I think they're going to try, and I think they're going to lead the nation in scoring this year. And so it's going to be games like this where they're able to get over 50 points. That's why I have this game 52-9. I'll take Michigan covering that 36. Unlike Lucas' first game, we're on the opposite ends of things. Let's see about Michigan State. That game is tonight, the annual Friday East Lansing game. And Michigan State welcomes in Central. That's a 14.5 spread. I think this is going to be pretty close. I watch a lot of these Friday games, and it always seems like, wow, Michigan State's going to lose it. And they just put enough on it late. That's the way it was last year against Western. I see a similar type game this year, 28-13. So I will lay the 14.5 barely, and I think the Spartans will win it by a half point, 28-13.
Yeah, I'm with you on this one. I think MSU is going to be better this year than they were last year. I think last year they didn't have a lot of depth. They got beat up early on in the schedule, had a couple guys go down. That early season game against Washington, they had the mid-year suspensions after the Michigan game. They really just never got right again with the depth of the team. They do lose Peyton Thorne to Auburn, starting quarterback, and their star receiver Keon Coleman to Florida State. But I think they're going to be a little bit of bounce back from last year, be back to more like a 7-5 type team. The reason I'm going to pick the Sparties in this game is more of a stylistic play than anything. My numbers say about 10 points on a neutral field, which means the spread is pretty close with the 14-ish. Depending on where the book is, I would take it under the 14 or under. If you can get that number, that's kind of a key number. So I know I was just looking 13.5 on BetMGM is what it is right now. So some late money coming in on Central Michigan, but it helps me because I want to take MSU. Anyway, so Jim McElwain, they're run heavy, like West Coast style offense, but the strength of this Michigan State team as a whole, to me, is a defensive front seven. So I just don't see Central Michigan being able to bully the defensive front seven for the Spartans and keep the run heavy West Coast style offense on track. I think they're going to be in more in third and longs, and I do not think this is a Central Michigan team that is particularly good at throwing the ball, even though Michigan State's secondary has been quite bad in the last couple of years. I don't really think that'll be a factor. If it's going to get to third and longs consistently, they're going to have trouble moving the football. It's just a bad matchup for Central Michigan. I think Michigan State's going to be able to dominate the trenches, both sides of the ball. I don't think they're going to totally kill Central, but I do think they'll have enough to cover this 14 here.
Here's James calling for a Central the victory, game-winning field goal. We've seen that in the past, and I guess, you could make a case that I'm wearing Central colors here if you really wanted to, but a good analysis by you, Lucas. That gets us to the Detroit Lions. I'm going to jump in front of you here because I think the Lions are going to have a good year. I do think that they're going to win the NFC North for the first time in over 25 years. They're going to have a home playoff game, and I think they can win a home playoff game, but in this game against Kansas City on Thursday night to kick off the NFL season, I think that the Lions will fall to the Chiefs. My analysis on this one, and I think the Chiefs are going to cover that 6.5, is that there are some teams, they play the preseason different. And Andy Reid always plays his guys in the preseason. If you watch Patrick Mahomes out there in the exhibition season, and the starters playing a lot in the preseason. Meanwhile, I watched all the Lions games. I don't even remember seeing Jared Goff or any of these guys out there. They're kind of they're saving it up for week one. To me, that's a big deal. And I know Jones not being there in the middle, the defensive tackle for the Chiefs, that is a big deal. But I like Kansas City in this one. I don't know if it's easy, but I think they're going to cover the 6.5, 30-21, even though I like the Lions this year.
Oh, we got another fight in our hands. I am also going to buy into the Lions type this year, kind of like you were talking about, but I'm going to jump on the other side of this. I'll take the plus 6.5 here. Don't think they're going to win outright, but I think they'll be able to cover on the road. It is a tough game going to Arrowhead, but I think this offense can put up points against pretty much anybody. And this defense improved a lot down the stretch last year. They had the coordinator, secondary changeover, kind of midway through the year after the bye week. That's when it really started clicking for them on defense. And then the whole secondary this year is it's brand new compared to what it was last year. And I really like some of the names that they added there. I think they're going to be a lot better in the secondary. That'll make them a more complete unit. With Chauncey Gardner-Johnson coming over from the Eagles, the couple corners that they signed in free agency. I love the Brian Branch draft pick that they selected. Kind of short up linebacker, taking a guy from Iowa. That's typically a smart thing to do. So I really like what they're doing on defense. I think they're going to be able to take that step forward. So I think Chiefs win, but I think the Lions will cover this.
All right. Well, I can tell you out of all that, I agree with everything you said. Really, Branch. Everybody loves Branch. So we agree with Michigan State. You had the line a little bit lower than that, but we're different. You like the Pirates with the points and also the Detroit Lions. So, folks, you can do with it what you will as we get to our best bets. We've got a parlay and a prop and also a lock of the week coming up. And so for best bets, let's go. You get a trio of games that you get to select here. You looked at the menu. This goes all the way till Monday, and with college football games, you got Clemson and Duke playing on Monday. Florida State is taking on LSU in Orlando on Sunday. Full slate of games. It's crazy for me to say tomorrow, but it is tomorrow. So out of all these games, so what were the three that you picked that you liked the most?
Yeah, so I'll start with I'll build my way up until the most anticipated game of the week. I'll end with that one. I like Illinois to cover the 9.5 against Toledo. Don't have a ton of analysis here. I just think Illinois is really being undervalued in the current betting market. I think people are worried about what Illinois lost in the secondary. They lost a couple draft picks. It's Illinois, so you don't like think of them as being able to just reload. But Bielema typically does a pretty good job of hiring coaches. So even though they have to replace their defensive coordinator and a couple of pieces in that secondary, it doesn't really scare me that much because their defensive front seven is really among the best in the Big Ten. Very underrated nationally. They're a top 10 and most of the stuffing the run stats last year. And most of those pieces are still back. So I think they're going to be really good at stopping the run again this year. And then on offense, obviously Illinois, Brett Bielema, they like to run the ball quite a bit, establish the line of scrimmage. I think they're going to have no problem doing that here against Toledo. I think Illinois will roll and win by at least 2 scores in that one. And then I'll go to Coach Prime's debut, taking on TCU. I'm jumping on TCU. One of my favorite bets of the week. Way too much turnover here for me on the Colorado side to just trust really anything that they have going on. They have very little depth. Even some of the Colorado insiders are talking about that. Their front, if you look at the top of the depth chart for Colorado, they have some nice names. But I think when you go through 4 quarters in a full season, I just don't see them holding up. And I think TCU and everybody else pretty much knows that. So I think TCU is going to play fast. They have an offensive-minded head coach who likes to play fast anyways, so it kind of just another reason to keep playing fast here. And I think TCU, generally speaking, is kind of underrated coming off of the run last year. They will take a step back this year. I don't think they're going to win a Big 12 and go to the playoff again. But I don't think it's going to be near as big of a step back as the general public thinks. So I think they're going to be like an 8-4 type team this year. Chandler Morris started his career at Oklahoma. He's a capable quarterback, started games there, transfer over to TCU. He actually won the job heading into last year. Then he got hurt. Max Duggan ended up taking over, and the rest was history there. But Chandler Morris did win that job. He's a capable quarterback. They're still going to have a bunch of weapons outside of receiver, and they know how to scheme up points. Their DC is really creative, and we saw what he could do against a team like Michigan. It's a different scheme than you typically see. It's kind of one that's hard to prepare for, as Michigan found out. So I'm jumping on TCU here. And I have another question about how well Shedeur Sanders is going to translate to the Power 5. I'm just not entirely sold that he's as good as people think he is. So I think TCU will roll in that one. And then I'll end with Florida State and LSU. So power ratings wise, I have this dead even. I have them literally the exact same power rating on a neutral field. More kind of like a pick 'em essentially. I'm going to take the Noles to cover the 2.5 because I am getting those 2.5 points here. Because I said I have this game is pretty much even. And number 2, the worst unit on the field in this game, in my opinion, will be the LSU secondary. So when you look at Florida State, what do they have to be able to take advantage of that? Well, they have a veteran quarterback, Jordan Travis. He's made a lot of strides in the last couple of years. And they have 2 wide receiver type trees out there, and Johnny Wilson, 6'7", Keon Coleman, 6'4". Those 2 can go win those jump balls. I think they're going to be a big problem for that LSU secondary. I think Noles win the game outright, so I'll take them to cover that 2.5 there.
Keon Coleman, that name rings a bell. The former Spartan, right?
He's a stud.
I like all of your analysis. However, I don't agree with all of your picks, as you will see why as I throw my selections up on the board. And my best bet, I like South Carolina going to North Carolina. North Carolina, I'm suspicious. The media, the scouts, they love Drake May. He's never beaten anybody. You want to try to force Miami last year, but they lost all those games late last year. I like South Carolina outright in this game. I'll gladly take the 2.5. And, I'm buying in not for a Colorado victory, but I think Colorado will fight in this game, and that's too many points for me. And they will keep it close. Hunter, two-way star. There's a lot of flash. There's no doubt. A lot of pizzazz and everything else. So, I listen to Sonny Dykes talk about, even though they lost Quentin Johnston and he thinks the wide receivers are better this year. You already mentioned that, Duggan lost out to the quarterback last year, but he got hurt. So this is a good TCU team, but I'll take those 20.5. And then Rutgers on Sunday, Northwestern. I do not believe in Northwestern at all. I thought this line, the way I pick the games is I look at the teams, and before I see any lines, I set the lines myself. I had this one as, Rutgers 9.5, thinking about, maybe even double digits. Their offense, I don't know, but I just don't think the Cats are going to be bringing anything to the table. I don't think they're going to have a great crowd following in there. Not like Piscataway's a real hornet's nest or anything, but when you're talking about a Sunday in the first week, if they can muster up anything, I think they will, because this will be a game, that they're favored to win. So I like Rutgers. So South Carolina plus the points. Colorado, we go head to head on that one. And then I like Rutgers covering the points. Those are my trio of games. And, quickly I can give you my my parlay and my prop, because I like the Chiefs and how they bring it in the preseason. If you look back at Andy Reid, the Chiefs are pretty good in September too, against most every other NFL team. That's why I think they come out strong against the Lions, ultimately win the game as well. But I also like them in the first quarter, and I like them at the half. So I am going to look at the Chiefs minus 4.5, and I like Michigan to score over 43.5. And I'm parlaying that, so I get plus 266. So Michigan by themselves over 43.5, and the Chiefs minus 4.5 on the first half line, and I get that plus 266. That's my parlay of the week. And my prop is JJ McCarthy over 211.5 yards. It's minus 115. I got burned a little bit last year with JJ. They could pull them out. I know that can be dangerous. Corum and the one-arm bandit could be running wild. So, that gets, but I think JJ, he's going to want to show that he can throw the ball downfield as well. He connects a couple of times with Roman Wilson. He could get this easily. I'm going over. That's my prop.
Gotcha, not bad. My parlay, I'm going to jump with you on the South Carolina pick. I have a 3-team money line parlay here. It is Florida State outright, South Carolina outright, and I'm going to just tack on Penn State there just to help increase the odds. Talked about the Florida State game already. South Carolina, I agree with you. I just don't really understand why they're a slight underdog here. I just think South Carolina is underrated. Nationally, I think Spencer Rattler is going to have a really good year for them. Last year, if you didn't really pay attention to South Carolina very closely, Marcus Satterfield was the offensive coordinator there. Now at Nebraska with Matt Rule, he got hired away. But kind of behind the scenes, they struggled on offense. They were a lot worse than people kind of expected them to have. They had a couple good receivers, a couple good running backs. They had Spencer Rattler, former 5-star quarterback. And Austin Stogner was a pretty solid tight end, also came over from Oklahoma with Rattler. They struggled on offense, didn't live up to expectations. A lot of people blamed it on Marcus Satterfield, and kind of late slipping under the radar, South Carolina made a change at play caller, and it happened to be right before they played Tennessee last year. I don't know if anybody remembers that game, but they put up like 55 on Tennessee, and then they went on to beat Clemson like a week or two later. So I think that offensive change was a really big part of why I'm jumping on them here. I still think they're being underrated. Just because they struggled so much last year. I think a lot of the books and a lot of people kind of are baking that in to what will happen this year. And I just think they're going to look very different on offense. I think Spencer Rattler there will have a pretty big year. Then on the other side, UNC's defense was really, really bad last year. They lost a bunch of transfers, both in the secondary and in the front seven, to other Power 5 teams. So I just have a hard time seeing them have like a big bounce back on that side of the ball. I think that game will turn into a shootout, Drake May and Spencer Rattler. But I think Rattler has a better supporting cast. So I think they're going to be able to get the job done there. And then Penn State taking on West Virginia. Like I said, I kind of just added them to make it better odds for my upset picks here. I just think they're going to cruise. It's kind of like a layup here. I'm tacking on to the end. If the first two hit, this is another layup just to help it go up that much farther. But I am kind of buying into the Penn State hype this year in 2023. I didn't feel comfortable like fully taking them to cover just because it's 21 is a lot against another Power 5 team. And the implied probability here on this parlay is 21%. And I just think my numbers, I have it closer to like 35-ish% here. So I'm getting a lot of value there. It's plus 30, plus 383. So I really like that. I think that's a lot better chance of hitting than the books are giving you credit for. And then I'll go with my prop. This one's kind of just a hunch. There's no like real analysis. We haven't seen any games yet, really. So kind of just going off a hunch here. I think Michigan is going to want to establish the run early, and then that'll open up the play action pass. And when they do want to go deep, to me, Roman Wilson is the guy that you're going to want to go deep to. So I'm going to take Roman Wilson over 49.5 receiving yards. I think he hits at least one big play here. He's got the speed to take the top off of the defense. I think he's going to have a really good year this year for Michigan, and he's going to start off the year strong by going over this receiving prop here of 49.5.
I love that one. I like your Penn State analysis as well. Don't know about the quarterback. And Shane Beamer has that program, the Gamecocks, on the rise, man. That guy doing a good job in recruiting. How he's doing it, we can talk about that later. But he's getting players, and they look pretty good. And I think he's in his third year, so the trajectory definitely is up. So you and I are with in lockstep there. 22 likes Michigan as a first half play. He likes them as a first quarter play. And his analysis is that the Pirates had the 130th pass defense last year. And, I don't know how many teams there are. I don't know if there are many more than 130. So that actually sounds good to me. If anybody out there wants to give us their best bet of the week, I mean, the game that they're going to bet for sure right now, go ahead and put it up there. And that's where we are at here at the conclusion of our 9 picks after we went through Michigan State and the Lions and our 3 best bets of the week and a parlay and a prop. Now we have our best bets. And for me, I'm going to put it up on the screen for everyone here. You've got Army, who is taking on Louisiana Monroe, and that is a over and under of 46.5. Louisiana Monroe, Army, we saw this against Michigan. They're tough to play against. The option, the triple option, and Louisiana Monroe. This is 2 teams like this. This one might go over the 46.5 by halftime. This is my lock of the week. Lock it up. The over 46.5 in Army and Louisiana Monroe. Let's go to the last piece, and that is for Lucas Reimink's lock of the week.
Yeah, my lock of the week, count 22, just talking about Michigan's first half spread there. I'm going to take Ohio State's spread against Indiana. 17.5 is what it's at. This is one of my favorite bets from last year. If anyone listened last year, I bet on it a lot. It's very profitable. Justice and I both liked it. There's another guy on Twitter who does power ratings, Tyler Shoemaker. I kind of use his to kind of double check mine. He bet on it a lot last year as well, and he's an Ohio State, a big Ohio State fan. So he certainly knows what's going on, has the pulse of the program. And I'm going to be on this quite a bit again, I think, this year. This is kind of just a Ryan Day thing, but when Ohio State has the superior talent in a game, like they will against Indiana, they run it up, they put up points, and they do it early. That's one of my favorite plays. It gets tricky when you're doing spreads of, like 30 points or plus. It's like 28 or something like for the full game here. And that's just too many points for me to like any pick, really. It doesn't really matter to the teams. There's just too many points for me to like it anymore. So that's why I like to bet teams in the first half, like Ohio State, who like to run it up. They'll do it early, and they kind of just coast from there. So that's what I think they're going to do. I do not think Indiana's very good at all. I have them power rated as one of the worst Power 5 teams in the country. Just not a lot going on there at Indiana that I think is even close to like average or above average. And then I like Ohio State. Curious to kind of see how their quarterback position plays out. But I don't think it'll really matter here who's playing quarterback for them or how they're doing, because they're so much better at pretty much every aspect of football. So I will take Ohio State first half minus 17.5.
I'm out. Thanks for watching, everybody. I don't know what happened. No, I do. I blew a fuse. But we got all the particulars in. For Lucas Reimink, I'm Dennis Fithian. We'll see you tomorrow after the Michigan game, Monday, good afternoon football, and next week on Sharpening the Edge.